I think it's not. It's actually a very fair question. If I think it's not safe, we're going to move it out of that city. So, no, if any city we think is going to be even a little bit dangerous for the World Cup or for the Olympics, you know, where they have Olympic overthrow, right? But for the World Cup in particular, because they're playing in so many cities, we won't allow it to go to, we'll move it around a little bit. But I hope that's not going to happen, yeah.
With all due respect to current world leaders, football is bigger than them. And football will survive their regime, their government, their slogans.
Trump said, "If I think a city isn't safe, we'll move the game." A few days later, FIFA answered, "It's FIFA's tournament. FIFA makes the decisions." That is the whole story in one line. Power claimed, power checked. In 2018, FIFA awarded the 2026 World Cup to the United States, Canada, and Mexico. In 2022, FIFA named the host cities. Reported plans showed 11 in the US, 3 in Mexico, and 2 in Canada. Lawyers who work on major sports events said in interviews that these choices are locked into contracts covering stadium use, insurance, TV rights, security plans, and travel logistics. In plain English, once the map is set, you don't change it on a whim. Because in global sport, contracts speak louder than politics. On September 26, 2025, at the White House, Donald Trump was asked about games planned for West Coast cities he often criticizes. In summary speech, he said that if he thought a place was not safe, the matches would be moved. The tone was simple and absolute, as if a U.S. president could direct a global tournament by personal call. So what happens when a president tries to rewrite the playbook of global sport? On October 1st, 2025, at a London sports business event, FIFA Vice President Victor Montagliani, a Canadian and the head of CONCACAF, responded. In reported speech, he said, "This is FIFA's tournament. FIFA's jurisdiction. FIFA makes the decisions." He added again in reported speech that football is bigger than any current leader, and the sport will outlive their regimes and slogans. The message was polite but firm. Presidents come and go, the World Cup does not answer to them. It was more than a rebuttal. It was a reminder of who really holds the whistle. Why does that matter? It matters because the World Cup runs on signed agreements, not political threats. Event lawyers and operations staff often explain it like this. Behind each game, there are years of contracts, stadium leases, broadcast timings, sponsor activations, police and transport plans, medical coverage, and insurance. Changing one venue means rewriting hundreds of pages, rebooking crews, and risking lawsuits. FIFA, not any government, is the party that holds those threads together. Reported speech from industry experts puts it clearly. A president cannot move matches that don't legally belong to his office. Trump's remark also exposed another issue, perception. International media have for years reported rising worries about safety in some U.S. cities and the complexity of U.S. visas. Reporters often compare that process to past hosts that used fast-track systems where a valid match ticket worked like a temporary entry pass. Analysts quoted in those stories say those differences affect fan travel plans and can push organizers to emphasize locations with simpler logistics and a calmer public image. While one leader made headlines, 2 countries quietly played the long game. Meanwhile, Canada and Mexico have spoken in the language of reliability. City officials in Vancouver and Toronto have publicly said the World Cup will draw major visitor spending. One Vancouver statement even compared the month to dozens of Super Bowls in economic energy. Mexican officials have long framed Mexico City's Estadio Azteca as a symbolic pillar of the tournament, with Guadalajara and Monterrey prepared for high-profile fixtures. In reported briefings, both countries keep pointing to steady security planning, transport upgrades, and clear lines between sport and politics. Inside FIFA, officials rarely talk about internal debates. But sports reporters have said in reported speech that after Trump's comments, the organization reviewed contingency steps, things like broadcast optimization, climate scheduling, and logistics balancing. Those are neutral words, but they allow FIFA to shift attention matches without public drama if needed. Nothing official changed on paper, yet the message from London was already enough. FIFA, not the White House, chooses where the spotlight goes. This wasn't just a clash of personalities, it was a test of systems. There is a larger lesson here. The United States is powerful, but global events are not American property. Gianni Infantino is FIFA's president. The federation is a Swiss-based body with its own rules, sponsors, and legal teams. It listens to governments for security cooperation, but it does not take orders about venue control. That is how the sport protects all hosts, large and small, from political storms. For Canada and Mexico, this is a quiet win. A Canadian FIFA leader said on stage that the tournament's decisions sit with FIFA. In practical terms, that reinforces the security of games planned for Toronto and Vancouver and the schedule in Mexico. You don't need a fight at the diplomatic level when the institution itself says in public that contracts stand. That is classic middle power strategy. Work through international bodies, keep the rules strong, and let the rules protect you. For U.S. cities, the picture is mixed. Local organizers, police, and transport agencies are still working hard. They deserve credit. But when a national leader talks about moving matches for political reasons, it creates doubt. Broadcasters, sponsors, and fans notice. As one operations manager put it in reported speech, the World Cup hates uncertainty. If uncertainty rises in one place, attention can drift to steadier ground without a headline saying so. Now let's keep the timeline simple for viewers. The award came in 2018. The city list came in 2022. On September 26, 2025, Trump said he would move games if he thought a city was unsafe. On October 1st, 2025, FIFA's vice president answered, "It's FIFA's tournament." That is the line that matters. None of this means the World Cup leaves the United States. It means the World Cup will run by its rules. If FIFA needs to fine-tune which matches get the brightest slot, it can do so within the plan it already controls. If a city needs extra security work, it will be done with FIFA, state, and local officials, not by a single press remark. So what does this all mean for fans, cities, and the future of global sport? Here is the bottom line in everyday terms. Trump tried a power move. FIFA said no. Canada and Mexico gain from that clarity because it locks in their games and underlines their readiness. The United States still hosts a huge share, but not by personal order, by contract. Reported speech from experts sums it up. Global sport is built to outlast politics. The World Cup will go on. Fans will fill stadiums in 3 countries. Toronto and Vancouver will showcase Canada. Mexico City, Guadalajara, and Monterrey will showcase Mexico. U.S. cities will still host many games, but the control sits where it always sat, with FIFA. And that is why this week's exchange matters. It shows a world where institutions, not slogans, decide how the biggest stage in sport is run. Watch closely. Share widely. Question loudly, even us. Stick to contracts, not slogans. Follow the facts, not the noise. Because who controls the spotlight shapes the story. This is Liberation Lens. Perspective matters.